i-netradio.com. i-netradio.com. Dobry den, I Dobropa Jalabat. This is Springtime in Moscow with your host, James Tuthill, and I'm Stephen Simpson. We've got some Russian with a little American, and we're serious with a little humor. So, Jim, what is happening in the world today?
Thank you, Steve, for the beautiful words. This is Jim Tuthill, and I'm here on Springtime in Moscow. Today, we have a special segment of Springtime in Moscow. We have the human revolution, how to make yourself into a better person. And I have with me, from Pennsylvania and New Jersey, Rosemary J. Ferrer, Anita Munikuntla, and Bob Holmes. We are here on i-netradio.com, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, broadcasting from the Gold Coast of Florida, between Miami Beach and Palm Beach in beautiful, tropical Jupiter, Florida. How are you doing tonight, Rosemary and Bob?
Awesome.
A little bit. I'm okay, but a little bit of cold.
A little
but I'm
cold,
fine.
yes. It's a little cold at 8 o'clock at night in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I understand that. Okay, let me read to you a little bit about what we're going to be talking about today. Human revolution is the work of transforming. Don't forget those words, work and transforming our lives at the very core. It involves identifying and challenging those things which inhibit the full expression of our positive potential and humanity. Human revolution in the Buddhist world is characterized by an emphasis on the possibility of inner transformation, a process of bringing forth our full human potential. Bob, did there come a time, either when you got involved with Nichiren Buddhism or before, that you set out on any type of mission to transform yourself? In other words, really, make yourself into a more compassionate and altruistic person. Did you ever make a conscious effort to do that?
Yes, I did actually. I did actually practice other forms of Buddhism, as I may have mentioned a few weeks before.
Yes.
But not only in religion wise, but just really after high school, trying to learn more about the world and life in general. And it really was a process, when I got my career, and I started learning how to speak Spanish, and I learned about the Latin culture as it pertains to 20 different countries, and I felt that it was really good training for me, as far as being a more compassionate person goes.
Was there a time,
And,
well, let me ask you this. Was there a time in your 20s, because that seems to be kind of a important period in our lives. Was there a time in your 20s when you were satisfied with your life, with you as a person? Were you satisfied? Did you say to yourself, well, I got educated. I led a nice life. I didn't commit any crimes. I did some good things. I have a nice job. Were you at a plateau where you said, I really don't need to get any better?
No, in my 20s, I was very restless.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, I think in a way it is good, because, it's like if you're channeling your energy into something in a creative way, then that's always a good idea.
Yeah.
But, like if the frustration manifests itself in destructive ways, then that's not good at all.
Yeah.
But I always made a conscious effort towards, relating to people in a courteous way. And in fact, when I was in eighth grade, I was voted most courteous.
No kidding. That's nice. That's nice. That's
Yeah,
important.
something I forgot about until you mentioned this to
Yeah.
me.
And that's important. That's very important. Yeah. I'll just tell you one funny little story. Based upon my research, when the English came to New England, and then when they came to Florida through the Bahamas in the late 1700s, they basically taught their children two things: fear no man and have manners. Interesting, isn't it? That's an interesting way to look at life. Yes. But the second component, or maybe the first component, I don't know, was have manners. And I think that is important. And there's a lot that goes into that with being courteous, because then I do think you become caring. I think you become compassionate. I think you have some altruism in your nature, and I think that's good. So, Rosemarie, did there ever come a time when you said to yourself, I'm satisfied with the way I am, and I don't need to change myself. I don't need to transform myself. I don't need to seek out my highest potential?
Well, growing up is different back home, especially I was nurtured and pampered by my grandfather. So everything I needed in my life, I had it. And on top of it, I was in a Catholic school. So the immediate friends of mine are all wealthy. So I was always putting myself with them. Like if they have this, I want to have that. I'm always comparing the status quo of my friends. It's so part of my life. I want to be like them. I want to have this. I want to be more than them. So in the long run, I realized that everything that I ever wanted was not real. They're all just, like plain fun and no value.
It's funny that you say that, because Mr. Ikeda, when talking about human revolution, drew sort of a dichotomy, sort of a line between two things. And he said you can either remain selfish. I think that's a really important word, which you were just talking about. You wanted stuff. You wanted to have the stuff that your friends had. You wanted to have fun. And lacking in compassion. In other words, if you're going to be selfish, it's hard to be compassionate. And, when did you take notice? When did you come to this self-realization that you were acting in a selfish way rather than a compassionate way? Did lightning strike you or something, or how did that happen?
Well, through my first encounter when I got married so early.
Mm-hmm.
And I was married to a very wealthy family, and I was kind of like a doormat because they're more richer than me. And and the pattern that I had with before I got married, the pattern that I was getting from guys are the same pattern that my first husband had. So it was kind of like awakening to me that I do not respect myself. I live it. I stayed it for a while, even if it was an abusive marriage. And the only reason why I was able to get out when my brother who passed away told me that you really deserve a better person. That's the only time that I got out of my marriage. But I thought everything's going to change through the course of my life. And I'm still attracting the same kind of person over and over again. I'm still creating lesser worth of myself because I wasn't recognizing the value of my life within me. So when I encountered Buddhism, that was the only time that I really, really admire myself and not judge my worth and compare myself to others.
Yeah. Bob, if you noticed, I sent you some materials before this show, and I didn't just send you Buddhist materials or SGI materials. I sent you some. I sent you a writing from a guy who became successful in life materially, but more than that, he talked about being successful as a person. And I sent you an article on a philosopher and how philosophy is important to our lives. In other words, we need to philosophize and think about the world and think about our lives and other people's lives. Well, every one of these articles, whether it's from Buddhism or, just sort of the practical or material world, they all talk about self-discipline and an effort to make this positive change. All right. And I don't know what that self-discipline is. I know in Nichiren Buddhism we have chants to the Gohonzon, and but also in Nam Myoho Renge Ko, Nam Myoho talks about faith and devotion and study. And I don't know if that's just reading things. One of the articles I sent you talked about how important it was to read books, and I've always believed that. I think that you can find out just about anything in the world somewhere, someplace. There's a book that has that information. I think books are very important. And
yes,
and you have to be self-disciplined according to everybody, according to Mr. Ikeda, according to that guy who wrote the philosophy article, and according to the multimillionaire. You have to be self-disciplined. Everybody seems to be on the same page on that. That's not so easy sometimes to acquire that self-discipline. You know what I mean? Did there come a time in your life when you did feel that you had the discipline in order to transform? And what they're talking about is transforming the core, baby, the inner you, deep, deep, deep stuff, okay? The core of your life. Did there ever come a time when you said, okay, I'm going to devote a certain portion of my life or a certain portion of the day or whatever to transforming the core of my life? Did you ever make that decision?
Before now, I was only thinking about, basically your life in your 20s kind of like gives a new meaning to Trivial Pursuit. You don't always think of developing yourself. Like if you go straight from a job to college, it's very hard. If you'll excuse me, I think Anita.
Okay, we'll go to Rosemarie. Rosemarie, they talk about transforming your inner core. Do you know what that means? What do you think that means, your inner core?
I think it's more personal transformation.
Yeah. What does that mean, though? Your soul, your heart, your brain? What?
Yourself, your inner self.
Okay.
Unless you are strong,
you
cannot win in life, nor will we accomplish anything. So what it's telling us is, in order to accomplish what we need to accomplish in our life, we need to be strong and perseverance.
Yeah. And in Buddhism, we believe that everybody possesses the ability or the quality to be compassionate, to have wisdom, to be wise, right? It's always good to be wise, and to have courage, and that we can create something of value from any situation. So we can transform ourselves even in the worst of times, even in the best of times. And it's very possible. I mean, that's really one of the essence of Nichiren Buddhism, that we all have this inner capacity for what we call Buddhahood, and relieving suffering and making the world happy and having courage and having wisdom. I mean, we've all got it. We just need to, somehow bring it out of us, if you know what I mean. And and it does take self-discipline. I mean, you just can't. One of the articles said you can't have neglect. You can't put things off. You have to work on this, and you just can't put it off till tomorrow. Okay. Bob, do you have a sense of your own what they call human dignity? Do you realize that a way that you should be acting and conducting yourself, are you aware that it's inside you and that you should live up to that potential?
Yes, I think I always prided myself in having, like at least, a basic sense of dignity, right or wrong, you know. But I it wasn't until I encountered Nichiren Buddhism that I found deeper meaning into what that really means. I try to be compassionate, but I also, like compassion and wisdom seem to go hand in hand in a lot of situations.
Mm-hmm. Is it?
I read.
Yeah, keep going. I'm sorry.
Mm,
You read somebody.
well, it's yeah. I mean, I've read stories about where people had given up all their money, out of compassion for some because they had everything they needed. Like you may have heard about Keanu Reeves, how he
Yeah.
all the money he made in the Matrix series of movies, he gave away to charity.
Wow.
It was pretty amazing.
No, I never knew that. I never knew that. Wow.
Yep.
And what drove him to do that? What was his motivation or inspiration?
From what I heard, it was just as if it just hit him that he had pretty much everything he needed, and all the extra money he had lying around could go to better use serving his fellow man, and I really respect him for doing that.
Absolutely. Some of these writings talk about the fact that some of the best opportunities to transform ourselves occur when something unfortunate happens to us. Maybe when we have an incurable illness, or one of our loved ones or one of our friends has, let's say, a terminal illness, or in a state of
Yes.
bereavement where someone has died. And the philosophers say that these bad times, these unfortunate times, may provide the best opportunities for tackling our human revolution and to realize our greatest personal growth. I wonder why those down times, let's call them, would be the time to try to improve ourselves. Anybody have any ideas on that? I always thought that it would be best to try to transform our lives when things were good and we had happiness and motivation, and we figured, well, things are good now, we can make them even better. But these people say some of the best opportunities are when things are going badly. Anybody have a feeling on why that would be a good time to transform? Nobody does.
I think. Well, let me see if I can take a shot at this.
Yeah.
I think when
Yeah.
things are starting to go bad, it really makes you think better of the situation in general. Like you were just talking about downtime. I find that if I get an unexpected break in my daily routine, in which I have a lot of downtime, like for instance, when that 6 month break, when I took the severance package from the job I had for 24 years, and after a few weeks of being on unemployment, I thought to myself, wow, I should have thought this through before I took the package. I should have tried and not just have a package, but have a plan. I had the package. I was able to, at least get a new refrigerator. But as far as having a plan, I didn't have one, and I knew that I would have to come up with one soon, or I'd be in trouble. And so the opportunity came when somebody spoke about opportunities for working for the city where I live as a crossing guard, and I've been doing that now since March 2011, and things are, in a way, things are still kind of hard, but I can feel that things are stabilizing, so in that way, you really get to be able to think better, when things start going wrong.
Well, you know what I
So it's like a blessing in
you know what I
disguise.
take away from that, Bob? You were under
Uh-huh.
you were under pressure, I guess. I mean, I guess
Yes.
you needed to get a job. You had this severance package. It wasn't going to last you forever. And you needed to do
Right.
something else, and you were sort of in a pressurized situation. In other words, you were kind of forced to sort of make some changes, and you were, I'm
Yes.
sure, concentrating and focusing rather intently on trying to do something to further your position. Yeah. Sometimes,
Yes.
I think that's very true. Sometimes when things are going well, we just don't have the motivation, the concentration, or the focus to do anything. I mean, why should we? I guess not. I don't
Yeah.
know. Is Anita
Yeah.
with us? Is Anita there?
Yes.
Yes,
Good.
yes, Jim. How are
How
you?
are you? Good. Thank you for joining us. I know that the weather in New Jersey can be troubling at times. So,
Yeah.
yes. We even had a flood here on Thursday night, Friday morning.
I know.
So, yes. And I was right in the middle of it. I mean, right in the middle of it. I was one of the last cars to get through. Okay. Mystery Cater
Wow.
wrote something about the human revolution, which is one of my big topics, because, I believe that we're all one on this world, and that when one person does something to somebody else, it has this ripple effect. And he said a great human revolution in just a single individual, which is sort of my mantra, will help achieve a change in the destiny of a nation, and further will enable a change in the destiny of all humankind. I mean, he says that and he writes that, and I happen to believe that, but I know that there are zillions of people who do not believe that. I'll just give you one mundane example. It may not even be applicable, but how many people say, "Oh, I'm not going to vote when an election comes up because it's not my vote's not going to make a difference anyway," which lately, over the last 10 years, really hasn't been so true. Some of these elections have been decided by one or two votes here or there, and people need to realize that. But that's just a small example. People thinking, well, I really can't change anything. Little old me can't change anything. Anita, what do you think
I
about
see that all the time.
Yeah, what do you think about that, Anita, where Mr. Ikeda says this human revolution where we have the transformation of our core and we try to become more compassionate and more caring and we try to make ourselves, I guess, into better people. He says if we do that, we can change a whole nation, and he says change the world, all humankind. That's a rather ambitious statement. But what do you think of that, Anita? You think that's possible? One person can make the change just by changing themselves?
Mm, yeah, I guess. Because if you
It's
change
pretty,
yourself.
it's pretty daunting, That's pretty daunting.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I have always
Because
believed that there is some basis for that. I really do. I think that if you can affect a person beneficially, then they'll go out and affect somebody else beneficially. I think it can carry out. I don't know how far it can carry out. I don't know about the entire world, all humankind, because it's tough for a guy in Miami, Florida, to reach some guy in the Sahara Desert. But I guess anything's possible. I don't know. It's an interesting.
it is because
Yeah.
because that's a very positive thing. Because if you change yourself, if you see a transformation of your life, and if you're happy within yourself, I feel personally you can make the others happy and try to it's very few people who are satisfied. I mean, you won't get everything what you like in life, but to some extent you are happy and you're satisfied with your life. You can make a little difference to the other person, because you can give your experience to the other person and try to change, not the change, but you can try to like guide them what you went through, your experiences. Maybe it will be helpful for the other person. If you can change a one person and he can understand very well, then he can change the other person too. So I tried from myself, but I don't know how far that will go to that is for truth. It depends upon the other individual. But we try to do, as in Buddhism, that's what they say. When you have to bring out your Buddhahood from your every person has a Buddhahood, and you can use it to your purpose and to the other purpose. More than for yourself, you're chanting for other people to be happy.
Yeah.
And it's affect the surroundings also.
Yes, wisdom, courage, happiness. We all have the ability to do it. We just need to realize it. But stick with me for one more second, because I have something else to say. Mr. Toda said that the human revolution was about, listen to this, the establishment of one's ultimate purpose in life. And then, wow, he really went for the gusto here. And working toward the perfection of self. Wow. Do you think it's ever possible to achieve perfection of self, or rather, should we always be working towards the perfection of self?
You should working towards the perfection itself, because no one is like perfect. You try to be perfect, but I think myself perfect, but other person should be telling me that I'm perfect, I'm doing the right job. So I believe, like, instead of you thinking of ourselves, the other person should be telling you, like, okay, she's doing a good thing, and like, she's a little bit perfect. But I don't think anybody is like 100% is perfect.
Yeah, I agree. But I guess that should be a constant goal, even if it's unattainable, even if you know it's unattainable, even if everybody knows it.
Yeah,
that should be, I guess, a goal. But wow, that is one heck of a goal. That is a tough goal.
But Jim, let me know how to be perfect. Even I want to be.
Yes. I'm going to have to get some more articles before I give you that answer. Okay. Yeah. But I'll keep researching.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Yes.
Yeah, because I'm trying to be perfect, yes. But it's not like a little bit possible.
Yes,
so
I know. I don't know. I try to do my best, but I make an awful lot of mistakes. So
yeah, that's what.
Yes.
Even I try to.
Yes. Rosemarie, are you still there?
Yes.
Beautiful. Okay, last week we had a very good show. We got a lot of listeners, more than usual, when we discussed death. And we discussed death in a lot of ways, but in two important ways, whether death is total death, where that's the end of the road, or death is just a stepping stone to another life and sort of a prelude to another life. And in this article, we get back to that same idea, talking about the human revolution of an individual. You have to have a conviction. They say the best way to do that, to have the human revolution, is if you have a conviction in the eternity of life. This is the point. Rather than focusing on short-term goals, which only apply to one's present lifetime. And that's true. I hate to say it, I'm 61 years old. I don't know. I figure I'll get into my 80s or something. But I would just be planning on that. Now, if I were planning on an eternity of lives, I might look at things differently and try to make my transformation more positively, and don't worry about time running out on me, because I guess time isn't going to run out on me if I believe in the eternity of life. And this article talks about, if you believe in the eternity of life, then you have the pursuit of loftier goals and greater good. And a person who believes in that bookend of life, that when you die, lights out and nothing else happens, has an accomplishment of lesser goals and good as his or her goal. So that's kind of interesting. You really do kind of have to have a philosophy as to the eternity of life, which makes things interesting. So I take it, Rose, you have that philosophy about the eternity of life, correct?
Correct.
Yes, that's good.
I read the book of the new book of Daisaku Ikeda. he talks about the 7 paths to peace,
Uh-huh.
about the human revolution in terms of self-mastery.
Uh-huh.
Simply put, this means winning control over oneself, overcoming the small self that is dominated by narrow self-interest, and awakening to the larger self that works for the good of humanity. From this standpoint, a major obstacle to developing ourselves is to pursue a way of life bound by our small ego or self. Expanding from the lesser self to the greater self is the path of human revolution. Through our practice of introducing others to Nichiren Daishonen's Buddhism and through efforts to share Buddhism with others, we ourselves grow immensely. We carry out our own human revolution and transform our karma. Therefore, by guiding another individual towards happiness, we also guide ourselves towards happiness. And the act of introducing others to Buddhism, which enables us to profound benefit both ourselves and others, and is the formula of hope for humanity. At a time when we, an ordinary person, attain Buddhahood, or at a time when a person is at a turning point in doing their own human revolution, the negative aspect of life will always appear in some form, and this is an unavoidable fact of life. Nichiren Daishonin assures us of this and asks us to transmit it as an axiom or principle of faith so that it is understood by all of those who practice. So it means when we start doing our own revolution, in terms of, in Buddhism, the term is fundamental darkness. It's used to describe the ignorance and delusion inherent in human life. This is the ignorance of the fact that we all have the state of Buddhahood in our lives at all times, latent and ready to be revealed. The aim of our great struggle for Kusun-Rufu, our movement of human revolution, is just to transform that innate darkness into light. Our goal is to vanquish the destructive tendencies within human life that give rise to mutual distrust and hate, violence and fear. The 3 obstacles and 4 devils become an indispensable means for doing this. This is why we should rejoice when they appear, so that when we go through our own obstacles, we always say, thank you, thank you. I've been waiting for you for a long time. And when somebody hears that, it's so strange. Why is she so happy with all her obstacles?
You know, that was really the next thing I was going to talk about. When overcoming the obstacles, I think what you're saying is up to us. And a lot of these writers say it's not up to others. You can't blame someone else. You have to change yourself first. And importantly, the human revolution takes place right now. The situation we find ourselves in at this moment. And as Bob was saying before, he was in a situation, he had been, I guess, cut loose from this company. They were downsizing, as all these companies do. And now he had to make sort of a transformation of himself at that particular moment. And you can't leave it up to somebody else. And you can't say, well, somebody else has to, remove these obstacles for me. And sure, there are plenty of obstacles out there. Yes, we are all going to face obstacles. There is no doubt about it. We are going to face impediments. And I think what they're saying is we have to deal with these ourselves and try to change them ourselves. I don't think anybody else is going to do it for us. And these writers talk about taking responsibility for our own feelings and emotions, especially those we most dislike. We have to realize we have the ability to transform our lives from within. Now, Bob, that gets us to when they talk about feelings and emotions. I'm sure that the most prevalent emotions they're talking about are anger and fear and I don't know, getting upset with the world and not having patience. Being impatient maybe is sort of a obstacle to getting forward. Bob, have you ever said to yourself, I get too angry, or I get too angry too fast, or I'm not patient enough, or I should be more forgiving of other people, and I should be more willing to, sometimes people foul up. You go into a restaurant and you order and they don't bring your dinner for 40 or 45 minutes. I mean, that can get you a little upset, and there are a million things like this in our lives that occur on a daily basis which can get us angry. And Bob, do you give thought to, we all have anger. Do you give thought to trying to curb your anger or change your emotions or trying to flow with things? You ever think about that?
Yes, I try. I don't always succeed.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I know what you mean.
Just the I mean, if you're at least making a conscious effort to let small things roll off your back,
yeah,
then that can go a long way towards diffusing really ugly situations, and I've had my share of those.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, just in day-to-day
sure,
life,
especially
it's hard.
Especially when the French fries are cold, right? Yes.
Yeah.
That can be upsetting. I know. And we have to think of, I mean, that's just a facetious example, but we have to think about some of these things. And there are bigger examples. I mean, people can really foul up our lives. Look at all these people that did business with Target, the department store, and I don't know, millions of people had their vital information stolen, and then people could go out and use their debit cards. And you have to cope. You have to cope with that. I mean, it's easy to get mad at Target. It's easy to crook. Half the people in the world are crooks, and it can be upsetting. And I don't know how you acquire this self-mastery. That's what they talk about in a lot of these articles, self-mastery. In order to just put up with that stuff. It can get you mad, but more importantly, it can give you a rather negative outlook on mankind. Do you know what I mean, Bob? You can say, yes, boy, there's a lot of bad people out there. Yeah.
I remember you were talking about self-mastery, and it reminded me of in July of 2001, the youth division of the what at the time was the Northeast Territory. They put on a big presentation at the theater in Madison Square Garden, and the theme was Heroes of Life, Champions of Humanity. And one of the very special guest speakers of that event was Dean Lawrence Carter, who was the dean of the Martin Luther King Chapel at Morehouse College. And he said, I remember his exact words. He said, Buddhism, I am convinced, as a follower of Jesus, holds the key to peace with its promise of self-mastery. If the world you see is not to your liking, there is only one thing to do: work on yourself.
Yeah.
And I remember when he said promise of self-mastery. So it's true. Buddhism does hold the promise of self-mastery, but its practitioners are the individual level are the only ones that can provide the guarantee of self-mastery.
Absolutely. That's the guarantee. You can't rely on somebody else. There's an old saying, if you want to get it done right, do it yourself. And I guess that holds water. Anita, a few minutes ago, Rosemary was talking about the devils. And the devils apparently, and this, I understand this, come from with our own lives. We create our own negativity. We create our own doubt, our own uncertainty, and our own confusion. And they talk about the fact that the first devil arises from earthly desires and craving for personal fame and riches, laziness, egoism, and greed, anger, and stupidity. Well, yeah, sure. We all, that's floating around us all of the time. Okay. Now, let me just ask you a question. Recently, I think you missed one of the shows, you had to fly somewhere for maybe a job interview or something like that.
Yeah, you missed last
Yeah.
week.
Oh, last
But
week?
weren't you going for a job
Um,
interview or something? Something. I don't know. New
um,
job or something.
no,
Oh.
I was away for the vacation
Oh,
actually. I
okay.
was on vacation.
Oh,
Job
I'm
interview
sorry.
I have this week.
Well, I was going to say,
Oh,
if you're
yeah.
going to,
Sorry, I guess I got that
if
wrong.
you're getting a job or you're in a job,
Yeah.
I think you have to have an ego. All right. I know that to be a trial lawyer, you got to have an ego. Let me tell you, it's a little bit nerve-wracking when you walk into that jury room and six or 12 people are sitting there. It's a little bit scary. It's not quite like you might think. Okay. And sometimes, and we all want fame. Every lawyer wants to be famous. Every lawyer wants to be rich. Sometimes it's hard to put aside those things in our lives. We all want to be successful, so we say to ourselves, well, we also have to have these rather negative thoughts in order to be successful. Do you know what I mean? There seems to be sort of a conflict there. Yeah. I don't know if you ever thought about that, but it's tough. It's tough to subvert our ego, and I think that sometimes we have to do that. And I don't know. And then they talk about the second devil of weakness, and then they talk about the third devil, the hindrance of death, and then the fourth devil is one that just drains our life forces. And we all have weaknesses, and we all have fears, and this does reduce our ability to make this transformation. It's just very difficult. How do you do that? Do you have self-reflection? I mean, do you think you ever sit down and say to yourself, well, I have these feelings that I need to get rid of?
Yes, that is, I guess everyone have, at least I don't know about others, but I do have.
Yeah.
There are so many weaknesses that I'm chanting to overcome that.
Yeah.
It's taking me time, but every time, like for example, if I take a job thing, like you said, there's so many people, there's so many good people or very intelligent people rather than, there's so many people out there for the job. For each job, there are hundreds of people who are capable, who are much better than what I am. I feel that way. So I chant to overcome my problems, my weaknesses, and my fundamental darkness.
Yeah.
To
Your
be
self-confidence.
make myself confidence. That is very important. Okay, I'm going to get that. First, I used to chant that I want the job. Then I've been guided. No, like if you want to achieve, if you want to have something in life, you need to have a confidence. I can say overconfidence. Actually, like you're going to get that. So I do that. I'm trying actually, and I chant for that.
Yeah. But when we think about our faults, I think in a way that can sort of reduce our self-esteem. And it's to me at least, it's very sad when you come upon someone who you can see just doesn't really have any self-esteem or a very low self-esteem or whatever. To me, that's sad. I don't like it when I see that. And I'm just not sure about that. So there is a little bit of, again, of a conflict here when you're saying to yourself, well, I have fear, I have laziness, I have arrogance, I have whatever. And, you're sort of putting yourself down in order to make this transformation. I mean, do you have to undergo this catharsis, this cleansing, in order to make this transformation? Bob, do you have to say to yourself, well, I'm a bad person and I could be better?
Saying you're a bad person, that sounds painfully familiar it sounds very much like the traditions that I have been brought up with. You know, believing that you're inherently bad, whereas Buddhism teaches you that you're inherently good. But because of the three poisons, you often forget that, and that causes waywardness in the reality of how things really are. Rather than saying, I'm not worthy, say, I am worthy. I just have to convince myself of that.
Yeah.
And that I can become a better person.
Yeah, you got to think you're worthy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And you got to have that positive force. And I guess that we can get that from Nichiren Buddhism. We can understand that. We can understand that it's inside us, And that is one thing that Nichiren Buddhism gives us. It reinforces what's inside us and our knowledge of that we have this at least latent or innate ability to, become courageous and wise and enlightened. We absolutely have the ability to do it, and it's just a matter, I guess, of just trying to do it. Rose, I want to ask you something. Mr. Ikeda said we live in a world today where there's a prevailing mood of powerlessness. People say, well, I'm just a little cog in the wheel. I'm working in the face of huge institutions, as he puts it, that run our world. He says a feeling of powerlessness fuels a vicious cycle that only worsens the situation and increases people's sense of futility. And, I see that really accelerating in our society here in the United States. It seems like, and I just had a conversation a few hours ago with a brain surgeon here in Palm Beach County, and who's been my friend for about 34 years. And we were talking about how these big institutions and these big corporations are taking over our lives, and how he's not really even going to be able to practice medicine on his own. He's going to have to join some sort of corporate entity in order to survive, in order to go forward, in order to make. Rose, do you ever look at the world and say, these companies, these corporations, these people, these billionaires, they're just too big for me to do anything, for me to make a difference, for me to have any impact upon the world? It's just gotten too. It's David and Goliath, just me, little Rose Marie, against Microsoft, or I don't know who. Do you ever think about that? That you're just too small to transform things or transform your lives?
No, in today's world where global issues are so important, many people feel a sense of powerlessness and resignation.
Yeah.
A feeling that no individual efforts can change the way things are. But the Buddhist viewpoint is that the world should be seen from the perspective of the individual, and that the human life contains the entire universe. That is why changing our own lives one by one will bring a change in our family, our community, and the society in which we live. It will change the age we live in, our history, and indeed all aspects of our world. If we look for true causes of war, we see that it is essentially caused by the human mind. War stems from the desire to control and conquer others, to have power, and from hatred and antipathy. Such is a human being in the grip of the negative force of life. World peace starts with the inner transformation of the individual and the struggle to elevate our state of life and free ourselves from the domination of the negative force of life. A single flower contains the seeds for more than 1,000 new plants. Similarly, when one brave person stands up for peace, his or her resolve spreads out into the environment, to thousands of ways. Courage always brings a response. One person's human revolution can therefore eventually change the destiny of the entire human race.
Yeah. Okay. Then you haven't given up hope that Walmart is going to drown us or take over our
No.
lives. You're going to stand up to Walmart. Okay.
Well, it's transforming the self, you know.
Yes.
When we commit our lives to chanting, we embark on a journey of self-discovery and challenge. By taking responsibility for our feelings and emotions, especially those we most dislike, we come to realize that we have the ability to transform our lives from within.
Yeah.
So as we broaden our experience of chanting Daimoku, we get experience of our environment reflecting the transformation of our inner lives. This could be in our family relationship, at work, or other aspects. And in short, it is what one should avoid prejudging people at all costs, because you'll never know if that person will become the next president, or if this person in front of you can help you in all different ways.
Yeah.
So even if Walmart may not be as strong as, or Macy's may be stronger than Walmart, but we're all the same, you know, we're all in the same universe. We're all human beings.
Absolutely. You know, that's a beautiful way to look at it. We are all human beings. We're all in the same universe. That's the best way to look at it. That's terrific. I agree. Bob, I gave you a little article. Let's call this layman's terms, okay? A guy wrote an article, and what he did is he used different vocabulary than what Mr. Ikeda said and what the SGI writings are. But in my humble opinion, it's the same thought. Okay, it's the same idea, just using different words. Okay, and he says that you have to study philosophy. Okay, and I think that's the same thing as self-mastery and self-discipline. Okay, and he says that if you study philosophy, you can get a new way of life. And I think that is the human revolution transforming our lives. I think it's all similar. But the two biggest words that he uses differently than what they use in Nichiren Buddhism, where they have compassion and enlightenment and caring and courage and wisdom, he talks about being ethical and being reasonable. Do you understand what he's saying?
Right.
Being reasonable. Can you equate that, being reasonable and being ethical? Can you equate that to being compassionate and caring and enlightened and wise? Do you see any comparison there?
I think it all depends on how you apply it.
Yeah.
You know, I guess if you have if you're the manager of a small or big company or a small company, and you have an employee that's really likable, but is not very competent in his or her job, and you're in the position of having to decide whether to keep this person on or let them go. You know, and they talk about if it's, you know, is it what would be reasonable, and but you know, depending on the situation, you know, you may or may not be able to equate it.
Well, this is his big deal. Let me tell you what his big deal is. He says being reasonable is trying to understand true beliefs and better beliefs. Okay, and we need, if we're going to be believers, if we're going to have faith in what we're doing, and faith in Buddhism, and Nichiren Buddhism, the Gahanzen, and Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, we have to, I think, decide whether this is a true belief and whether it's a better belief. And we really need to understand that, I think. And we need to make a commitment to that if we're going to transform our lives. Do you know what I'm talking about? I don't think you can transform your life unless you really believe in what you're doing. You understand what I'm saying? You understand what this guy is saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's you know, trying to transform your own life without the ability to believe that you can actually do it is next to impossible.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I mean, I guess, it's hard because, when you transform your life, he talks about that killing people indiscriminately is morally wrong. Well, that's not 100% true in our society, because we have this thing that if you're at war, if you're in a declared war, indiscriminate killing is okay. But outside of war, indiscriminate killing is morally wrong. And then we have the death penalty. A lot of people,
Right.
probably you, probably I, probably most Nichiren Buddhists, are against the death penalty, except when our emotions are overcome and somebody in our family is killed by a crazy murderer. I don't know. I think that sometimes we say to ourselves, well, I may be against the death penalty, but not in this case. So we kind of have to, in transforming our lives, we have to get rid of that anger. We have to get rid of that irrationality. And I think that you do have to be reasonable, and you have to have reason when you're making this transformation. I think this guy is right. I think that reason goes hand in hand with creating wisdom and creating enlightenment. So I don't know. I think we all have to be reasonable. And sometimes that's not easy because our emotions get in the way of reason. And again, there you go with changing your life to try to overcome those crazy emotions. And he says once we have better beliefs, we are in a better position to improve our behavior. He talks about actions, which I guess we can call really karma. Words, deeds, thoughts, actions. And if we have better beliefs. And I think that the beauty of being a Nichiren Buddhist is I think that we have a good belief system. I think that we have a good foundation for beliefs. I think that what we believe is a good thing to believe. And I think that's important. Yes. And I think people need to know that. And if you can work off of that platform, so to speak, I think that's a huge, huge advantage. Knowing that what you're reading about, what you're trying to put into practice is most likely correct. So I guess we have developed our own philosophy in Nichiren Buddhism as to changing our life. And the last guy talked about learning from success and your failures. He talked about reading all that you can. Again, that sort of goes hand in hand with what we're talking about, study, devotion, and faith. And he says that you have to set your sail or have a mission. And I think that's true. And one of the other things this guy said is write down. Keep a journal, keep a diary. He says writing things down can really touch your life. And the other thing is, he says be disciplined, which is what we've been talking about with self-mastery. And he says be a good listener. Be a good listener. And don't neglect things. Don't put them off. Don't put this transformation in your life. So I think people need to realize that, it's not just Nichiren Buddhism, but it's just good reality, good practical thought to do this. And I think that's what Nichiren Buddhism is based upon. I think it's good thought and good beliefs and good common sense. So that's about all I can say. I think we should try to transform our lives. And there are, you don't have to just be a Nichiren Buddhist to do it. I think everybody should try to do it. So anybody want to say anything? We only have 30 seconds left.
Yeah, common sense, like you said.
Yeah.
Buddhism is reason.
Yes.
It doesn't exist apart from society or apart from reality.
Right.
That is why it is important for each of us to cultivate good judgment and common sense.
Exactly.
We must respect and harmonize with society's ways. Respecting the life of each individual, we work among the people. This is the SGI Fundamentals Creed.
Rose, that is great the way you put that. That is really great. I want to thank everybody for coming on the show. We are here at the end. We may have run a few seconds over, so Steve will have to do a little compressing. And we want to thank everybody, and we say good night. Das vidanya, paka paka. Have a nice day. Bye-bye from Miami, Philadelphia, and New Jersey. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
i-netradio.com. i-netradio.com.